Hey guys, welcome back to Tethan Props. Today I'm going to show you how I went about making Thor's Hammer. First thing as always is to make the 3D model. Did this on Fusion 360 as always, and then chucked it on my Anycubic Mono X printer. So this is a great printer, can print it all out in one go. So I've got my three pieces here, the pommel, the handle and the emitter. And when you pull a print off the printer, there's a couple of things you need to do to clean them up and get them ready for use. So the first thing is to clean them with a paper towel. This helps remove the excess resin. Then you clean them in a bit of isopropyl alcohol and then wash off the excess isopropyl alcohol. So it's all about making sure that you clean up these prints after they come off the printer. The next thing was to remove the supports from the emitter section. So I had to add supports to this to ensure that it printed properly, same with the pommel there. So definitely recommend to print these with supports to make sure that the prints come out properly. The next stage was to start sanding the supports off. So as I said, you print all the parts with supports and you have to make sure that you remove them. So I've got this old belt sander that I've been using for a couple of years now, and in making this video it decided to stop working. So I tried a couple of really good tips on fixing it, which was to see if the belt moved. It didn't. Tried turning it on and off, it didn't work. So I pulled it out and pulled it apart and see if I could see anything that was stopping it from working from the inside out, and couldn't fix it. So after about an hour's worth of work, it was time to chuck it in the bin. The next stage was heading out to Bunnings and buying a new one. So I decided to go with the Ryobi belt and disc sander. This was about $200 Australian, so a little bit pricey, but I use it every day, so it was worth getting a good one. I highly recommend, if you're ever doing printing with resin printers or any kind of lightsabers like this, that you get yourself a belt sander rather than trying to sand by hand. It makes things so much faster, so much cleaner and so much easier. So go out, get yourself a belt and disc sander and it'll make your life much easier. So putting this one back into the outside cabinet because you don't want to be breathing these fumes in, check that it works, and then you're good to go and remove the supports from all the pieces. It's really important when removing supports just to remove as much as you need and not actually start sanding into the piece itself. Now it's time to glue it all together. Pretty simple, you just glue the emitter onto the handle section and that's about it. It's time to then get onto painting. So with all 3D prints, always start with a primer. I like to just use grey primer. It's a good undercoat colour, which then you can add on any colours over the top of. So give all the pieces a good coat of grey primer. The next stage is Mission Brown. So this is the brown that is the colour of the handle itself. So I just cover all the pieces in that brown. I then use masking tape to tape off all the areas that I want to remain brown, and then go back with some silver and hit all those other parts. And because I've used a really dark undercoat being the brown, the silver shows up really well. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you put down the masking tape really slowly, carefully, and make sure you do a good job, because it's a really critical part of doing a handle like this. If you don't do a good tape job at this point, you'll have lots of silver paint seeping out from underneath the tape and getting on your brown, which will ruin the look of it. So make sure you take your time when you're doing the masking to make sure it's correct. The next stage is to start weathering it. So this one was a pretty simple one. It was just a dark wash over the whole lightsaber. So I took some watered down black acrylic paints, spread it over the whole lightsaber, then went back with a paper towel and removed all the excess. What this does is leave the black paint in all the nooks and crannies and just gives it that extra level of realism. After the black paint was down, I just sealed it all with a clear coat to make sure all of that black paint and the silver and the brown didn't get rubbed off when you were handling the lightsaber. The next stage is to start installing the LGT electronics, so I take my pack, unpack it all. The packs come with the lightsaber core, charging cable, an Allen key and all the screws that you need to put this together. So the assembly of this lightsaber is quite simple. You just slide the lightsaber core up the middle of the lightsaber, use the charging cable to help pull the buttons up a little bit, and then just add the screws in and screw it tight. So with a 3D print, you want to just make sure that you don't over torque any of the screws. So as soon as it starts to get a little bit tight, that means you've done enough screw tightening. Once the electronics are installed, the lightsaber pommel simply slides over the top with a friction fit. To add the leather strap, you just take a small strap of leather, slide it into the cutout groove in the pommel, so you glue the two ends together and then just slide it around so that the seam is in the actual pommel. And that is the lightsaber completed. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this build, and I'll see you on the next one.